Hey guys, so I'm going to continue from our last lecture of chapter 11, and I'm going to go right into the next slide. So I left off at the slide number 31, which I have the notes there for you to read on your own time. And I'm moving on to slide 32, which I also have some notes for you as well on the state and local laws, and specifically about the welfare policy on the bottom. And then slides 33 through 36 are some charts with some statistics that you can go through. It could also help you with your paper. Finally, I am starting with slide 37. All right, so on April 29th at 11:59, you will have already submitted assignment number 3, in which I am asking you to, which I asked you to use chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8 to discuss the positive/successful side of the family institution versus the negative side of it. So we already discussed this a lot in depth. So basically the reason I'm bringing this up is because this was kind of a little bit of a practice for what you're going to write about for paper 4. So depending on how you defined something as positive or negative, that should kind of turn you into what you're going to, what side you're going to lean towards for paper 4. So I'm going to further explain. All right, so I'm moving on to slide 38. Okay, so on the first day of class, I put up the following quote. Is the family an outdated institution out of place in modern society, perpetuating inequality and irrational ideas, or is it a haven in a heartless world? So if anybody remembers the first day of class when I brought this up, I kind of was like, does anyone know how to answer this? And you guys will kind of give me blank faces. And I was like, don't worry, by the end of the semester, you should have a better idea of how you feel about this and what I mean. So I hope that you're now at that point and you know how you're going to answer it or what side you're kind of leaning towards. So you have these two kind of sides, right? This version of we've already been through what an institution is. My camera stopped because I ran out of space. Now it's going to be even longer because I had to combine the video and now, whoosah. Okay, so, what was I saying? Okay, so an institution, okay, a social space where people fulfill certain roles and they follow certain rules of interaction, right? We have market, family, and state. So is it an institution that is outdated or is it a haven in a heartless world? So we'll explain further how you can address this. All right, so I want you to answer that question using chapters 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we've already went over 9, 10 today, which is April 29th. You would have already watched the video or read chapter for 11. So then next week is the final chapter that you will be able to use for family violence for this paper. Moving on to the next slide, do April 13th, just kind of putting it together. So you're going to answer this question using chapters 9, 10, 11, and 12. Moving on from slide 40 to slide 41. All right, so this is like the assignment, which is itemized underneath assignments and underneath week 15 for you. Pick any specific topic from these 4 chapters. One topic, all right? So similar to what I had you do for the last 3 papers, where I had you pick 2 from all 4 chapters this time because it's the last paper. And whatever you have a final to study for, you're going to pick one topic, definition, theory, whatever it is, right, from these 4 chapters, and answer the above question by doing the following, right? So your main thesis is your answer to this question, right? So you're going to do a brief introduction on your answer to the question, right? On whether the family is an outdated institution or a haven in a heartless world. This is, even though I put brief introduction, I don't mean brief like this is worth 10 points. I mean like, answer the question and give me some kind of in-depth analytical response to this question, right? Defend your point, right? So whether you're saying it's a haven or a outdated institution, defend your point by focusing and summarizing a specific topic, controversy, theory, whatever, from these chapters. Cite properly, like I always say. And that's it. And then the usual guidelines. That's it. I usually have a lot of specific questions. I wanted to include something like whether you choose, like add a suggestion how it can be improved. But then I thought if someone's going to write like Haven, that's going to be like, so whatever. So if that's something you want to include, if you choose the outdated institution, some kind of suggestion how to improve it, go ahead. But it's not like a mandated part of the question. All right, so your intro, brief introduction, like I want to explain a little bit more in depth what you guys should be doing. Although it's based on your opinion, right? But it's your educated opinion, right? It's basically kind of your theory, your hypothesis. You've been doing research technically on the family for the past 15 weeks. After all this data you've gotten from, education and the workplace and families and statistics and, these charts and these theories, everything we've been learning, the videos I made you guys watch, out of all that stuff, how do you see the family now, right? Is it outdated? I'm going to keep repeating the same thing over, but you guys are getting what I'm saying. So, although it is your opinion, you are not writing this as an opinion piece or your personal point of view, right? So you're not going to write, I think that the family is this. I believe that, right? I'm trying to install this in you guys because when you do sociological research and when you are writing like a thesis paper or, something for school, for college specifically, you're not writing, I believe and I think weakens your point of view. And I've explained this to you guys over and over again, so I'm not going to repeat it again. But I put use Control plus F and search the word I. If you wrote that, when you're done with your paper, Control F, number one, search the word Cohen. See if it came up a few times, then good. If it's only popped up once in your body of your paper, go back and see, add more citations. You can't just cite Cohen once and that's enough. You should be citing Cohen at minimum 4 times throughout a 4-page paper. Control F-I, if you wrote I anywhere in the paper, even we is sometimes I, get it out, change it. If you're going to say, I believe the family is this, just say, the family is this. It strengthens your point of view. You're going to further that by adding some kind of evidence to support your claim. And it's just better. It's better. It's the way it's supposed to be. After approximately 15 weeks of studying, this should be a final conclusion based on all that. What sides you lean on. So think about the conflict and consensus perspective, right? We're going to get into that. Explain whether the family is an outdated institution or a haven and heartless world. Can you guys believe that my video stopped again because I have no storage? Okay, I have too many lectures. All right. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like trying to go fast. This is going to take forever to upload. I'm sorry, guys. I'm learning. Okay, so explain whether the family is an outdated, I'm so frustrated, is an outdated institution or a haven hearts. The body of the paper will be doing that. And how are you defining those two terms, right? So it's not enough to say the family's an outdated institution because blah, blah, blah. Also make it clear to me how you view it as being an outdated institution, right? Or if you're saying it's a haven and heartless world, how are you seeing the world as heartless? What specific aspect of the world are you focusing on as being heartless? And it sounds a little like weird, but, explain to me. It's like if you're going to focus on, the haven in a heartless world as, the family can be a protection against, let's say abuse, right? So you're going to say sometimes there's some kind of abuses that happen outside of the family, right? Obviously not all types of abuse occur within the family. How can your family protect you from that outside, harm, right? You're going to discuss what you mean by the world being heartless. That's what I mean. And then if you're going to write about it being an outdated institution, what makes it, what's outdated about the family, right? This concept of women being nurturers, this concept of the man and the wife when we have actual lesbian and gay couples, right? So I want you to explain that to me as well. It's not enough to just say it's a haven and a heartless world and not tell me what the hell you mean by that. Oh my God, this is not, okay. Next slide. All right, this is the body of the paper, right? So after you gave me this intro of this is the family's institution, blah, 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 and then you're going to go in and defend your point that you made in your introduction. And there's anybody who's like, why is she doing this? Like, this isn't a writing class, and there's so many students, like, majority of you guys are like great writers and do great jobs, but I do this because I forget a lot that, someone who came from grad school, that I'm teaching undergrads who don't necessarily, number one, have the interest and the experience in writing as I do. So I want to be like that professor that perhaps improved your writing in some kind of way if you are eventually interested going to grad school or so forth. Wait, look at me. Okay, so the body of your paper, defend your point. Which point are you leaning towards by focusing on and summarizing a specific topic, controversy, blah, blah. You must use one of the chapters. You must use one of those cite. And yes, you can use more than one if you choose. So let's say you want to write about, violence, but you also want to write about inequality in the workplace. You can use chapters 11 and 12. And yes, you can say both. I kind of hate when people do that. So I feel like it's like a kind of cop out, but it can be, you can. And I do think it's more work, because if you're going to tell me the family can be both a haven and the family can be both outdated institution, you need to use examples for both. That's which is why I extended the maximum page to 5 pages. But you can do both. And I hate when I say, like, I don't want, it's a cop out, because I don't want you to think negative. You think I'm gonna think negative of your paper. I like when you kind of lean towards one side, but if you think it's both and you have a legitimate argument to point that out, and your argument can be, there is no way to distinguish it because it varies for all different people, you can do that as well. But whatever side you do choose, or sides, you must pick specific examples from these chapters. Which goes into my next specific list of instructions, which I am changing the rule to no outside sources. I want for this paper for you to only use the textbook. That's it, just Cohen. So if you want to write about family violence and you're going to just look up the term that, is discussed in the chapter, right? So you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to write about family violence, a chapter, but I want to skip the reading and not read anything. And I'm going to write about intimacy and how, the family is a haven because you can find intimacy. And then you're going to Google intimacy statistics and then get a cop out and then cite Cohen once and then reference another article. That's not going to work for this paper, so don't try it. You're going to actually read, and you're going to do your research for this paper strictly on Cohen. I kind of let you guys use outside sources, and I know a lot of people were just like Googling, searching something for Cohen, and then basis of your statistics and information was coming from outside sources, which I allowed, but I felt like people were looking up things that could have been found in the chapter. So it was like, you're not doing the reading. So this time you have to use Cohen only. That is it. Cite. You need to cite. Use Cohen. Use specifics. Don't just define a general word and then not give some kind of statistic to back it up. I know it's only a 2-page paper, but you can pack a lot. And that's why a lot of times I'm like, get to the point. Don't give me those bullcrap long answers that are just like, well, sometimes the family is a place where a variety of situations can occur. Okay, yes. It's a race. Get to the point. You only got 2 to 3 pages to answer the question and answer it good. No spelling or grammar errors. Use spell check. You guys are now uploading Word documents to me. No reason why there should be little squiggly lines on the paper you send to your professor. No first person narrative. Use it as sociological research. I said that. Watch your margins. Same thing. Meet your page minimum. 2-page minimum means 2 full pages, not 1 page with a heading on top and then half of the next page. Try to use specifics that relate to the general theme of the book. Use more specifics from Cohen with citations. And you're going to use your reviews and suggestions from paper 3 that are going to be on Blackboard to improve on this paper. And I'm going to check. So if I have commented on your thing, you need to do more of this, or stop doing that and stop doing this, and then your same paper, number 4, doesn't have those improvements, you're going to lose points. Because I want you guys to improve on your writing. This is your this is a sociology class, and sociology is writing and research. That's the kind of final step of all this research we're doing. So moving on to slide 45. So that's it. So this is like another itemization of what it is that you're going to be doing. Moving on to slide 46. Again, me just kind of repeating, showing that assignment 3 can be used, is kind of like your beginning point of, doing paper 4. And then, I don't know why I repeated this so many times. Slide 47, the question, using the things. And, okay, so slide 48, I did this because I'm trying to show, okay, so we're going to look into outdated institution versus a haven in a heartless world. So this PowerPoint is in itself separate underneath assignments, and then it's also underneath, it's in your chapter 11 PowerPoint, which we're in now, okay? So slide 49, look at this. How are you defining your choice, and for who? So institutional arena, we already went into this. You need to memorize this definition, get it in your brain. It is on your final. Whether it's gonna be like a multiple choice, listing the 3 points, or doing a short answer, I haven't decided yet. I'm like speed talking because I'm scared I'm gonna be like, manage storage, a social space, blah, blah, blah. So, we already went over institutional arenas. So what do they mean by outdated institution? I just kind of itemized this. Like if I was writing the paper, I would kind of break down the wording of it, Like, what do you see? What inequalities are you focusing on? What irrational idea are you considering to be irrational? Why do you consider it being irrational? Irrational for who? Right? Break it down. Give me some specifics. Or if you're choosing Haven in a Heartless World, are you seeing, you're seeing the family as a place of safety or refuge? How are you defining that? I just Google these words real quick. And if you're gonna say like the, what does the family protect you from, right? So if you being, there's some kind of negative aspect going on in your workplace, how does the family provide that for you? And also a little bit more, and not even that obvious sometimes, right? So we see the statistics of like, these types of families, like for example, in this chapter, we saw when both when there are two incomes of, when someone's married and there's two incomes, and it's better because there's a higher income for the family as a whole, right? So that can be translated into the family being a haven, right? Because you have, this is where your income is situated, and this is something that you need to progress in the outside world, right? In a capitalistic society, right? So it's not necessarily like the physical protection from something evil, right? It's like the benefits that the family gives you versus the negatives that the family gives you. So which side are you leaning on? So that's what I mean by that. Don't just see it, right? So here we go for slide. Oh my God, my neck. I just had a Zoom meeting, so I'm like, okay, so slide 50. So this is again, so is the bad negatives, the good positives, depending on how you see it, the conflict perspectives, right? So it's like the feminist point of view. It's outdated. Women, this idea of family, the cost that it costs to have a family, why people wait to have a family, right? So we kind of went over that with the past few chapters, the inequalities that the family seems to either reproduce, right? So like we said in this chapter, that women tend to replicate their jobs in the real world that they do in the house, right? And then we also saw that those are the jobs that end up paying less, right? So these are all things. And then of course, or is it like a haven, right? What's the good parts? The things that have been improving. The consensus perspective is not necessarily because of gender. So moving on to slide 51, these are just different examples of what you can write about to write on both sides of outdated or haven. I'm rushing. This is an example of my haven. Again, this is something that I wrote myself. So this isn't something that could be cited. This is my summary research based on what's written in Cohen. So you cannot cite this. This is my writing that I did really fast. There's probably some errors. But just to show you an example of how you can write about a topic, two of the same topics, one from the perspective of it being a haven, and the next slide, an example of the family being an outdated institution. So I just want to show you guys that. Again, this is my personal writing. There's probably some errors in it. I just did it really quick to show you an example of how you can address this and give your opinion without putting I think, I believe, so forth. And this final slide is an example about how Google employees had, so I'm so frustrated, I'm like trying to calm myself down. Google employees were saying that the word family was homophobic because, and it relates to what we wrote about in chapter 9, about how this idea of family usually includes this, this socialized idea of a mom and dad, kids, etc., which doesn't usually include the idea of homosexual couples. So that's why they were saying that the use of family was homophobic. So I thought that was interesting because it kind of shows this idea that the family is an outdated institution, right? So our idea as a society of what a family is needs to be updated. So although you're not supposed to use outside sources, I thought that this was a good example of what could possibly be wrote about when it comes to this idea of family being outdated in terms to like the chapter 9 discussion about gay couples and being able to have kids. Not even just gay couples, just older women having kids. And what if a couple wants to be considered a family but they don't have kids, right? So that's something for you guys to read, also available for you to write about an extra credit. I'm gonna end this video. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Again, this is just for you to have some help with assignment 4. So do the last day of the class at the end of the day, all right? So I hope this helps. Bye.